Mindy, tell me about yourself.
I was a student at Messiah many years ago. So I was a student athlete here, played soccer and studied health and physical education. And I am back now and I'm a professor in applied health science. And so it's really cool to be at Messiah. And I've experienced it obviously in a variety of different ways, both as a student and now as a faculty member.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and outside of kind of that part, I have a husband, Brent, and two kids, Kendi and Kipton. And so we love being outside and hiking and playing soccer and just kind of all things related to outdoor activities.
That's awesome. So, what inspired you to write this article?
I finished my doctorate just over a year ago at UNC Greensboro. And while I was a student there doing my doctoral work, I got very interested in the idea of supporting student athletes as they transition beyond competitive collegiate sports. Having gone through that transition myself, I kind of remembered the interesting time right after college. I call it my slow, pointless jogging phase where I didn't really know what to do once competitive soccer was done. And it took me a while to kind of figure out what was meaningful and what I wanted to do to be physically active. So I had some great mentors at UNCG who are also interested in this area. And so for my dissertation last year, I designed a program that I called Pilates Connect. And it was a program specifically designed for student athletes who are in their final year of competition. It was a 6-week program where we came together and there was actual Pilates training to introduce student athletes to a different form of exercise that they could kind of build competence in. And then there was also intentional discussion during that time for student athletes just to connect with each other across different sports and be able to share both some of the challenges they anticipated facing as they graduated and considered what was interesting to them from an exercise standpoint. And also just kind of a chance to start to proactively think through these areas and kind of plan. So the article that was published recently was basically a case study that looked at implementing that program here at Messiah and kind of an overview of my dissertation work.
That's wonderful. So I know all writers are different. So what's your writing process? What does it look like?
This was a fairly extensive writing process. We laughed that my two mentors who co-wrote this article with me, I think we were back and forth with the editor maybe like 6 times until it finally got accepted. It was very fine-tuned by the end. But for this process, the first phase was actually writing my dissertation. So that was obviously a little bit too extensive to publish in a shorter article. So took the dissertation and then kind of took elements from that, but rewrote this article in a way that was meant to be much more practical for people who could read this and actually translate it then into hopefully meaningful applications. So it was published in Case Studies in Sport and Exercise Psychology. And so the hope is that kind of through this publication, actual professionals in the sport and exercise psychology field, but also people within athletics or former student athletes or current student athletes who might have access to this can just start to think about some of the different ways. So we did a lot of, kind of working through this. My research involves a lot of focus groups and qualitative work. So we look to effectively integrate that so that the stories of the student athletes who are part of our program actually had their voices come out as opposed to just our interpretations as the people running the program. So we did a lot of integration of that and then really, again, always try to come back to the practical side of, how do we actually use this to support people better, and in this case, support student athletes as they transition beyond college athletics.
That's wonderful. I'll have to let all my friends know about this that are athletics. So through the learning process, was there anything new that you learned about either the topic or about yourself that further your knowledge or want to know more about this topic?
Yeah, that's a great question. I just, part of why I love qualitative research, and in this case, it was more of a mixed methods approach because we also looked at some quantitative measures, but I love the opportunity to allow personal perspectives to shine through. And so I think it's interesting. I was a student athlete, so I have my own journey and my own perspective on this. And so I think part of what was really helpful for me through this process was being able to try to take off my own lens and allow the stories of the student athletes that I was working with to come through. And I think what was really cool within that process was to see that often there were some commonalities in their experiences, things like anticipating the challenge of not having their teammates around anymore, a change in motivation with different types of structures that would no longer be in place, different things like that. But then also recognizing that each person had a different way of approaching it. And so I think that was one of the things that I was really encouraged by and was really cool to learn, was this blend of like, there are some common challenges and different ways that people approach this, or even common areas that they're looking forward to, like having choice to do some areas that maybe they haven't been involved in, but each person is unique too. It's some student athletes that wanted to stay involved recreationally with their sport, other student athletes who are very ready to move into other areas and talked about church league softball or going snowboarding or some of the things that they weren't able to do throughout their time in college. So I think that was one of the key areas of learning, was just seeing how individualized those perspectives were within kind of a common theme overall.
That's wonderful. So during writing the article, did you get annoyed with the subject matter at times, or did you enjoy it more and more as you kept writing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I remember when I was like halfway through my doctoral program and we were really starting to dig into our dissertation topics. And I can remember a professor saying, you need to make sure you choose something that you're not going to get tired of in a couple of years. And so, for me, that has been very true. I teach in applied health science, but a lot of the work that I do outside of the classroom here at Messiah is with student athletes. And so this for me is far beyond kind of like a research topic or a dissertation topic, but it's the area that I see myself staying involved in. So the following fall, I offered that program again here at Messiah. Would have liked to this fall, but things are a little bit different, but plan to keep offering it in future semesters as well, just for the opportunity to provide support and a place to come together for student athletes, for senior student athletes. And I do Pilates classes for student athletes throughout the year. I do some strength and conditioning work with them. I sometimes meet with students, kind of talking through different areas of sports psychology. So for me, it's very much integrated into who I am and what I do. I've recently actually been working with some other people from UNCG, and we're looking at a lot of different focus groups now from student athletes, and we're actually writing another article that's a little bit broader, kind of integrating all these different perspectives and different conversations we've had. So it's something that I see as being kind of ongoing. Even here at Messiah, we're starting to look like, what does this mean to really continue to support student athletes well throughout their 4 years at Messiah. And the hope is that we might even be able to take that to like the conference level, then eventually too, to have some of those conversations. So I can genuinely say I did not get tired of the topic. I was ready for the editor to accept it. By the end, we were very ready for all the minor edits to be done. So it was definitely satisfying when it was accepted. But no, it's an area that I plan to stay very involved in.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your passion with me. Where can you tell the viewers where you can find the article and find you?
Yeah, so I am here on campus. So I'm up in the health, nutrition, and exercise science suite off the indoor track. And I'm always available. I love talking about this, or just having conversations in this area. So anybody is welcome to reach out through email or through my extension, or just to stop by. And the article is available in case studies in sport and exercise psychology. And so there's a link where people are able to access that and take a look at the abstract there. And then I have the full copy as well. So if anybody's more interested in that, they're welcome to reach out to me.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day.